half Italian New York kid from Queens that basically taps into my own inner talking abilities and leverage it in a way to monetize my art. It's pretty magical.
Welcome to the latest episode of Over a Pint. This week, I'm really excited. We're going outside of the real estate industry once again, which is one of my favorite things to do. And we're actually going to sit down and chat over a pint with John DeMato, who is a lifestyle photographer. But I'm going to have him introduce himself because, well, he'll be better at doing that than I ever would be. So John, why don't you introduce yourself for people who might not know who you are?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Andrew. I am a branded lifestyle portrait photographer and virtual photographer now, thanks to the pandemic. And I serve speakers, trainers, experts of all different kinds, business owners who are looking to create an emotional connection with the audience through what I call persuasive visual storytelling. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's actually where I first heard about you, and I actually thought it was brilliant. It was at the start of like the pandemic, and I believe it was Phil Jones who originally kind of put it on my radar. Is you very quickly pivoted to doing virtual photo shoots of like taking photos of people like while they're speaking on Zoom, and I thought that was like just how quickly and just like brilliantly executed you did it was really well done. So I was like I'm curious, like how did you come up with the idea and like execute it that quickly?
First of all, I'm thinking about taking some pictures right now of this, but it would be too meta, so I'm going to go ahead and leave the camera in the bag on the floor over here. But it came to me while I was sick, actually. I had the virus, and I basically felt like crap, and it was during a National Speaker Association event for the New York City chapter. I'm a photography sponsor with them. Yeah. And that's actually where I met Phil Jones. And during that event, I was just slumped over. I was sitting in this chair and I'm just kind of like staring at the screen because up until that point, I hadn't touched a camera in 5 weeks. I hadn't seen anybody outside of my space, outside of my apartment here in New York City. And I was pretty bummed out. But then I saw some familiar faces at the beginning of the program. And I'm like, you know what? Let me feel useful again. Let me do something. Yeah. So I grabbed the camera and I'm like slumped in the chair and I'm snapping away. And I look at the camera back with the image on it. And I'm like, this doesn't look as crappy as I thought it would. Yeah. I'm like, interesting. Let me just shoot the rest of this program. It was like a 2-hour program. And then afterwards, I wanted to figure out something to do with it. So I created a post around it and posted it the next day. And no one that was in that event knew I was doing it. So I tagged everybody in that post. Yeah. And I got a bunch of responses. And literally from that one post, that's where I knew I had something. And I wasn't even trying to come up with anything. I just wanted to feel like myself and be useful. And that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. You're all good now? Clean bill of health?
Well, I had a CAT scan on my lungs and there's nothing there. But every now and then I like to smoke a cigar along with my booze. And I still feel it every now and then, but by and large, day to day, I'm doing all right.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
You got out at all into any like in-person photography yet, or still mostly doing virtual?
It's since the end of July, I've done 2 branded lifestyle portrait sessions in person, which were, it just reminded me how much I love what I do. And the virtual stuff is awesome because it's valuable to the people I serve, and I love doing that. And I get to still do my thing, even though it's a laptop on a folding table in various rooms of my apartment as I wiggle around on the floor and shoot it like a psycho. But nothing beats in-person stuff. So I've done 2 of those, and I had a in-person headshot session yesterday. And but the rest of it, virtual. So, different types of virtual, by the way. It's not, at first it was just presentations,
Mm.
Recently, I've done online recorded video, like programs, online programs, and I've shot podcasts as well. It's
Yeah.
basically a wide scope of anything that's on a screen.
Yeah, as long as you can see somebody and go from there.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I'm
I'd
really
say.
curious, like, so obviously you became a photographer, but what I really like, kind of what you've done is like you have such like a specific niche and messaging around you do it. Like, was that from the start that you kind of had this niche, or how did that develop? And maybe for people who want to,
No.
maybe explain a little bit more about like your specific niche too.
Okay. So once upon a time, I worked in the television industry and I was ready to jump out of a window based on the monotony and all of the different things of getting burned out by doing the same thing for 9 years. And my initial thought was, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't want to own a business. But I ultimately came to the conclusion that after my mother died, it kind of lit a fire under my ass. And I realized, I'm not doing something that's lighting me up inside and fulfilling creatively and just in terms of service. And I started out just as a headshot photographer, just studio headshots in my apartment, all different types of clients, some real estate. And ultimately, I just didn't see me wanting to do that because it kind of felt like a factory and it just like rolling in and out with faces, and it just didn't satisfy me. So ultimately I ended up searching for other stuff. And what I did was basically go online, look up every photographer that I thought was awesome. And like, oh, I could do that. Oh, I could do that. Oh, I could do that. Let me try this. Let me try that. And that led to a race to the bottom of no clients. And it was one particular client about 4 years ago. She met me at an event that I was photographing and hired me to do some photos for her promotion of her book.
Yeah.
And it was during that conversation and during that shoot that I kind of realized between her husband, they're a team, and myself, that I could do this for a lot more people. I can package this thing and gear it towards experts, people who put out, people who have content, a lot of intellectual property that needs to be promoted. And it was born from there. And then over the course of these past 4 years, various iterations and refinement have happened throughout the course of time, in the way that, only in the way that I present it to people, but also in the way that I create the experience for the client in terms of how to maximize the value of the session.
Yeah. Like one of the like that I really like I found interesting because I have never seen another photographer do it, that you have like a basically like a monthly subscription plan that is not necessarily cheap. I mean not crazy expensive. It's also not cheap compared to like what most people are used to. So it's just interesting to me of like you have this whole process that's like we're gonna strategize, and it's a year-long process. These photos, like how long did it take you to come up with this concept of like it's actually better to work together on this year-long thing than most photographers who just do like a photo shoot here and there?
Well, I've had a retainer client for over a year that I've kind of, and it was a test thing, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a we're figuring it out as we go type of deal. But during the pandemic, and then with the inclusion of virtual photography into the fold, I kind of, over the past couple of months, kind of came up with this persuasive expert program that you're talking about, the 3, 6, or 12-month option. And it's because, I talk a lot about how images help build relationships with my clients' audiences. And what I ultimately realized is, in order for me to really get in there and know the nuances of who my clients are, who they serve, do what they do, it would be better if I got to know them over the course of time. So that's kind of where this idea stemmed from. And in not just, okay, I'm going to show up, we're going to take pictures. It's a lot of strategy. It's like, what are you trying to sell? How are you positioning yourself? Where are the gaps in the photos and the image content and the stuff that you're putting out now versus where you want to be and what you need, and we kind of find the middle ground, and then we fill those gaps with the stuff that we create together. And that way it's consistent current content that kind of comes in month after month, and of course there's strategy every single month to make sure that we're going in the right direction.
Yeah. And what kind of like, what's the main reason like speakers generally like, what type of content are they mostly looking for with from an image?
They want to look like superheroes. And I remind them that you need to have a balance between being a superhero and being relatable, and then that's where we meet in the middle. They want content that they want photos that position them as the premium option that they are the authority in the spaces of their expertise. That's a combination of powerful images of them in front of the room or on stage, or in this case on a screen in front of like hundreds of people, mixed with images of how the sausage is made in their lives. What is their process? What are their processes? And show that. What does brainstorming to you look like? What does working with a client look like? What does your day-to-day look like? Because that gives the speaker, the expert, the person putting out these images, the opportunity to give their audience an entry point into their lives, which when we're talking about building relationships and simply going beyond the commoditization of what they do, you're building that emotional connection. That's what it's all about.
So how with like photography, like say like an agent, real estate agent came to you and was like, I need photos for my social media presence. Like what type of photos would you be like, these are the type of things, especially from like the day-to-day, should they be looking to have? Because I know like not everyone's gonna be in your area where they can necessarily hire you for the in-person stuff. So she was like, if they're looking for a local photographer where they are, like what should they be going to them with?
Again, it's, especially in that world, it's so heavily commoditized, and what will make you stand out is again creating that connection with someone. And the way that I would ideally do it would be to run agent through the exact same strategy process that I do with everyone else. I want to know their nuances and what makes them unique, and then I want to show what their day looks like to their potential clients. We got to show the houses, we got to show the properties, we have to show them walking through, but I also want to see what it looks like when they're researching. I want to see how hard they're going to work for me based in the stories that they share beyond the actual properties, and what kind of experience they're going to create for their audience. And that's what we would create together for them to share with their audience, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What would you find like most people think social media and photos, everyone goes to Instagram. Like, do you find that's the best platform when they're like you're doing photo shoots for people, or how do you look at like the platform side of things when you're taking photos?
The best platform is the one where your clients are hanging.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say it like that is because most people would assume for me that the best platform to market myself would be Instagram, and it's not. Facebook is.
Yeah, same.
And then it's exactly like for me. But the thing for me is I focus my content essentially based off of my the storytelling that teaches something to my audience in whatever way that is, and I share it everywhere. But in terms of engagement, I focus mostly on Facebook because that's where I have a lot of my conversations that turn into sales calls or just get to know you calls, and it kind of nurtures the process along. But I mean, obviously, if someone were to reach out on me on Instagram or link, even Twitter, I'm still waiting for someone to do that. But Instagram and LinkedIn, I've gotten leads. But yeah, I know. I mean, I'm not a comedian or a political commentator, so I don't really.
There, like even when I used to sell real estate too, and Twitter, there's a place for it. Like for instance, right now, like I follow a lot of social media people just to like see what best practices are for people from brands. Like I think Twitter is incredibly valuable, and it could be for you, but like it's not from you posting. the value in Twitter is like networking and engaging with the right people.
Yeah.
Be like, it's such a time involved process that even though it's actually my favorite platform on a personal level, I don't use it professionally because
Yeah.
the time involved. Right now I'm using that for Facebook, but there is a huge potential on Twitter. I just don't think people have the time or desire to do it because it's not about posting, it's about engaging way more than other platforms.
Absolutely. But I will say this, though, engagement and listening to what your audience is saying beyond your own timeline is important for all of them to work.
Yeah.
But in fact, that's how I followed up with you about this. It was by seeing your stuff and then going in and oh, this is cool. I didn't even know this existed, and it all came from engagement of other people's pages, just like that. And you know, I do know that there is value in Twitter. You're right. But at the end of the day, we can't split ourselves up into equal parts and spread it across the place. So we kind of pick and choose where our battles are fought. And
That's what I
the
talk
key though, the key though with, I'm sorry to cut you off.
all good.
It's, it's, there needs to be a level of research. There needs to be a level of outreach based on really paying attention to who the types of people that you want to serve, where they mostly reside, and kind of just diving in that way rather than I want to work on. I didn't want to ultimately do business on Facebook.
Yeah.
But that's just how it kind of rolled out. So I'm going with it simply based off of where my particular audience is paying most attention to me.
Yeah. And like now that you're kind of jump into this niche, like what kind of like working with speakers and people who want to be seen as experts, like how has that evolved? Like if someone wants like comes to you and says like, hey, I want to be an expert in this field and seen that way, like how you started working with people at the beginning? Like has that changed what you've seen, like how you work with them now from like things
Yes.
you've been working with them?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Much like, I mean, you know, obviously this is a business and I treat this as a business, but first and foremost, and that is never lost. And with respect to the work, there is a constant need for improvement on my end, or a desire to improve and get better and see things and understand. Now, this is just on a personal dynamic, kind of dealing with different personalities and engaging them in a way to get what you need out of them so they have what they need. So I'm always refining that process and dealing with different personalities. Now, with respect to actually putting together a strategy for them, that has immensely changed as well, because at the beginning I didn't do monster session calls. They were a lot shorter and it was much more prescribed type of lifestyle activities I was going to shoot. And then as I kind of went along and kind of learned about the different ways that these experts present their expertise throughout their online presence, be it virtual, even before COVID, and in person, and the different types of stuff, that really clued me into the kinds of images that we need to capture to promote those particular services and offers.
Yeah.
And it's gotten much more refined over time by just learning anecdotally from working with different types of experts.
And going past the headshot, because like everyone obviously wants headshots. What do you see as like kind of the most common photos that are effective for promoting people once you get past just like your traditional headshot?
It's not even necessarily about the activity per se, or the lifestyle, activity that we're trying to capture. What it always boils down to is emotion. The captures that span the emotional spectrum, meaning we don't want just happy, smiley, I just, booked 10 new client kind of super happy faces, or I'm going to fold my arms and just stare down the camera and just yeah, those two shots are completely in any photo. That I don't shoot anybody folding their arms or anyone doing the fake wild laugh.
Like realtor pose.
I hate that shit so much. I just wrote an article about, the title of it, why folding folded arm portrait photos suck. But the thing that we're trying to capture again is an array of emotion and expression on your face. That's the money. Why? Because that's where the viewer's eyes immediately gravitate when they're looking at an image. They start from the edges, consciously zip right in to locate where the face is. And that's what we really work on. It's getting that range of vulnerability to joy and everything in between. If we had to kind of localize the types of lifestyle activities that are important, stuff that familiarize the audience with how the process works with working with them, that those are important. So if it's a laptop video chat thing, we need to see, it's a lot of in-person stuff. We need to see some conversations with people in real life and kind of work our way from there.
I'm curious, like, how do you do that? I know it's huge on video and it works, it's with photos too. Like, people just being uncomfortable when a camera's around. Like, how do you get people who are just like, because I know especially when I'm getting people to film video, they immediately go like wooden. It's like you've cut their personality in half.
Yeah.
Cameras in front of them. Like, how do you get that people out of that frame to having that type of photo?
The first step is understanding that the connection between photographer and client is one where there is rapport already. If there is no rapport, it's not going to work. So the way you figure out if there's rapport is during the consultation call and during the pre-session call. So what I'm doing during those calls is not just getting the nuts and bolts of how they live their lives and who they serve and why they do what they do. I'm also listening to how they're responding to the way that I'm talking to them. So if I talk more directly, are they responding better than when I'm being sarcastic and a jackass and talking a lot of crap, which I do throughout all of my sessions. And I kind of base that decision about how I'm going to approach them in the actual session during that stuff beforehand. And then when you're in person with them, it's kind of checking in at the beginning, having that initial conversation. And then really it's about having a conversation throughout and kind of mixing in the photos as we go. And sometimes I'm shooting and they're not really paying attention, or I'm being very like they need a kick in the ass and they need some tough love. Yeah. And then I'm more than happy to oblige. And then after that, that's when we go in. It's a psychology game. You know, we're therapists behind the camera. It's not just, you know, not just about the photography and pretty pictures. That's the hard work. The hard work really lies being able to get someone to break their guard, bring it down, be themselves, even for like 2 to 3 seconds at a time. That's all I need to pull together a several hundred photo portfolio for them of images across the emotional spectrum.
So do you have like specific tricks to get people's guard down that you use?
Well, the first thing that I always do is I don't ever ask anyone to smile.
Yeah.
I'll say something like, give me a little sunshine. And that throws people off right off the bat. And, you know, I'm just a smart ass. I mean, you know, I'm half Italian New York kid from Queens that basically taps into my own inner shit talking abilities and leverage it in a way to monetize my art. It's pretty magical.
Where in Italy is your family from?
From the Naples region. One of these days I got to make my way over there and see what that looks like when it's safe.
Yeah, you got a bit of time.
Please, yeah.
I did, yeah, like my family, well, my Nono and I are both in different parts. But I did a trip in high school over and actually went to see the town. So like one of the options, there's 3 cities I could stay in for this like overseas credit. And one ended up being the town next door where my Nono grew up. And I was like, yeah, that's where I'm going. And while I'm there, the town did this big welcome dinner. And randomly this woman comes up to me and she's like, you, Fogliato. And I was like, yes. She's like, come. I have no idea who this woman is. But she came right up to me with such confidence. And I had my cousin with me. So we both just got up and went with her. Probably not like the smartest decision in hindsight, but we were like, this seems interesting. She could barely communicate with us. Our Italian was terrible. End up getting in her car, driving out into the country. Turns out she brought us to where my Nono grew up.
Oh,
He was like a distant relative.
that's awesome.
The home was still with the family.
Wow.
And she's like, this is the tree your Nono used to like climb out of to sneak out of the house. And like now it's like when he tells stories of like hiding from the bombers going over in World War II and running into the fields, I'm like, I've been there, I've seen where you ran into the fields, and it's really cool. But it's like this super random, like she just came up like, "Yo, Foliato," and then just took us and went.
Which you just recognized your face.
I think she must have seen our name somewhere, and it was like, Foliato's not a common name in Italy. Like even so, like in Canada, there's one family with our last name that we don't know who they are. Everyone else is related to us. In Italy, everyone's either in the town we like my nono's from, or the town or the city that a lot of them have since moved to. Like most Foliatos were somehow pretty closely connected.
And they say that we need ancestry.com. You just need a random Italian woman to grab you out of a lineup and drive you to an undisclosed location. Was the house kind of in a row of houses, or was it just on a piece of land in the middle of nowhere?
Piece of land in the middle of nowhere. And it was funny, like she comes in and we get back in the car after. And because like her English wasn't good, our Italian was also not good. Is what we didn't realize is she's trying to like make these comments. We're in the car and she's not driving as we're leaving, and she was trying to communicate that her reverse option in her car doesn't work. She's trying to convey to me that she's going to put it in neutral, and I have to push the car back onto the road so she could drive forward.
So then you became a grunt worker on top of it all.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
hilarious.
the weirdest afternoon, and I'm just so happy I kept saying yes because
That's
I
great.
ended up seeing where my Nono grew up, and like it was so cool.
No, that's a once in a lifetime kind of cool thing right there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have a little like like an iPhone at the time? Or was this way back?
This was like their cell phones were like this was probably 2002, 2003.
Okay.
So like I was somewhere between grade 10 and 11 for me.
So we didn't 2002 you were oh good. So you were in high school and I was in grad school finishing up. That's awesome. Thanks.
My great
I'm old.
how I always remember it is 9/11 was my first week of high school. Because like, I remember
Oh really?
that's like my memory of like, okay, that's how I put myself where I was at what point is first week of high school was 9/11.
Yeah, that was a good time. I'm from here, so I was here when that happened. It was not a that was a fun day.
Way to put it.
I don't know what else to say. I thought that and this was when I was, 2001. That was before graduate school. That was before the television career. That was before everything.
Yeah.
And I thought we were gonna get blown to smithereens that day.
Yeah,
Not fun. But
I remember like because first week of high school, still like figuring out the routines, and I had like the earliest lunch possible, and I just went to a friend's house, and we're like looking for The Price is Right on TV, and we're like, where like no channel has it. We didn't stop to actually look at what it was, and so at first we're just like annoyed, like where's The Price is Right? Where's Bob? Like what the hell is going on?
yeah.
And then eventually we stopped, and we're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Even in grade 9, we're like, oh yeah, this is
That's not good.
Yeah.
I was going to the corner store in the morning that day, and they're like talking about how a helicopter hit the side of the World Trade Center. They didn't know at the time yet that it was a plane. And I'm like, get the hell out of here. How the hell could a plane, what? And then I go home, and then I had the thing on, and I saw the sound. I was like, oh shit, we are under attack. This is not good. And and then now fast forward to 2020, and here we are with another fun set of variables to play with.
So it's so weird like that we ended up talking about the World Trade Center. Actually, just like 2 days ago, I saw a photo, and it was in its collection of like ads that didn't age well. And it was a beautiful shot of the World Trade Centers, and it was an ad for them saying you'll never be closer to heaven than here. And you're like, oh God.
Oh,
I understand why they did that at the time, but like that is like that's up there with, remember Oscar Pistorius? Do you know who that is?
Oscar, the
The
runner,
yeah, the runner with no legs who like shot his girlfriend.
Shaw's wife or girlfriend. Yeah, South
Nike,
African, I believe. Yeah.
like a year before, Nike had like an ad where it's like him read like in that race position, and the ad was like bullet in the chamber, and you're like, those are like the two most cringy now in retrospect, two most cringy possible ads.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at all of the stuff that you've posted, and
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about overtly anything.
Yeah.
And it was in good taste at the time, and it was like contextually speaking, it was fine. And you go back and you're like, "Ew, that sounds terrible now." I mean, you'd be hard pressed not to find at least one
Yeah.
or
That's why I
10.
also always tell people like don't auto set your posts for social more than a week out because you want to remember what you've set because something might happen.
Well, it's funny you mention that. I actually am of the post stuff ahead, but due to a lot of the stuff that, because I write 3 blogs a month and I do social as well, a couple days a week into the blogs going on social. And, you know, once the riot started, well, first of all, the pandemic, all this stuff about in person, and this is like not even on that kind of, it's just more just insensitive in the fact that I have people in front of like thousand people rooms, a couple hundred people. It's like, this doesn't make any sense now. So I paused my queue, and I paused my blog queue and my social queue for at least 2 months. And I was sick and I didn't really feel like writing, so there was that too.
Yeah.
So I took a pass. I felt that it was fine, but
Post you'll bring
yeah,
back.
I did bring them back, and I'm actually, they're going out now, but not the live events. I took that out of rotation for now and modified other stuff and focus more on the virtual photography, and I'm starting to ramp up more the in-person stuff as the US hopefully turns a corner at some point soon.
Do you write your own copy? Because I thought like that page that you shared of like basically like the sales page for like pay me what you feel is fair for a virtual shoot when you first launched it, like
When first, yeah.
yourself or did you hire? Because that was an excellent copy on that page too.
Oh, thank you. Every single consonant, vowel, apostrophe is me. I I've adopted writing as my second passion underneath photography for many reasons. Uh, One of the main reasons is I've found, especially times like this, when I was just journaling stuff that had nothing to do with working. I've written pages and pages and pages. I find the process of writing extremely cathartic, and I think the ability to be able to have a space to kind of work out your thoughts and insights in front of an audience that will give you feedback is an effective way to really hone in on how you actually, help people get past the problems that they have. So yeah, I write it all.
It reminds me a lot of like the way word that of like stand-up comedians of like their process. That sounded a lot like that. Nice.
I've literally written an article about how content creators are akin to stand-ups and how they work their reps in 15-minute sets that represents a blog post, and then like their special is a big offer of some sort and like comprehensive words.
Like especially for my public speaking side of my career, like I study comedians a ton because like that to me is like the hardest kind of like entertainment job to have.
Absolutely.
And like when I come to New York, I can't go without going to the Comedy Cellar.
Is that where you go?
Yeah. I mean, if there's a better place, let me know. I love it. I got like Judd Apatow did it there one time when we were there.
Who?
Judd Apatow did a surprise set, and it was really interesting because clearly, so just written that Trainwreck movie. Like not that his movie was a train wreck. It was one called Trainwreck.
I know. Yeah, the one with Schumer, Amy Schumer.
And I learned it after what was happening is she made him come on a comedy tour with him, and he was testing his material there, and it was really interesting because he came up with his binder, And as he's telling jokes, based on how people were reacting, you could see him like, while still delivering his set, like making notes with the other hand of how like crowd reacted to what joke and like. And then I remember watching a Seinfeld video, who I'm a big Seinfeld guy, of him being like, this sentence is too long, and watching him like work on that one sentence because he felt it was one syllable too long, and trying to figure out how to like cut a single syllable from a sentence to make the joke work.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff, and I can relate to it.
Yeah.
Like how to make economy of words, creating that emotional up and down roller coaster through whatever story you're writing. You know, I find it very inspirational, and the fact is that I do needs those words because, you know, I say to people, you know, the phrase "a picture is worth 1,000 words."
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not enough to just say that. It doesn't speak for itself. That's the phrase that I use with people. A picture is worth 1,000 words, but it doesn't speak on its own. You have to fill it in for it, and you have to create that context that really will connect with your audience and really get their attention. I think that's one of the other reasons why I'm really into the writing, because if I expect clients to leverage these photos in a way that's really going to grab the attention of their audience, I probably should be doing the same damn thing.
So I'm curious because like this is one that like I've even struggled with personally too. Is like, like I have a local person who's a photographer who like will come over, take shots that I use for social, and we do that. But it's always then like the captions to put with the photos, and like the right way to, like, do you have a process or do you help your clients with what to write when you're promoting these images on social or anywhere?
What we'll do is, so during the strategy call, I'll have a better sense of what they need these photos for and kind of how they operate on social. And, you know, as we're shooting, I keep that in the back of my mind because I review the photos with the clients afterwards. So we'll shoot, you know, for a big session, couple, you know, 600-700 shots, whatever it is. And we're looking through them as we're trying to decide which ones are better than the other ones. It's like the first thing I'll ask is, can you write to this post? What do you see in this photo that would inspire something? And then I'll bring up the expression or the activity or something. We kind of play back and forth a little bit, and then if they can come up with something, then we keep it. If it's something where it's like, yeah, it looks nice, but there's nothing really behind the eyes there, and I don't know if I'm getting a grip on when we toss it. It's kind of one of the things that we do throughout that whole review process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking some photos for social. Well,
should I smile?
Gotta get no, I need an action shot. Yeah.
It's funny, but yeah. So that's what that is with that. I with my photographer colleagues,
Yeah.
them I'll help. I'm actually in the process of putting together a blog to start throwing out some stuff for photographers to help and understand the same thing, that they need to create an emotional connection, and that no, your photos don't speak for themselves.
Yeah.
You need to fill it in. And when it comes to working with photographers, I'm more apt to want to give them the little bit more help with the words, because it's a little different when you're working with the people that work on the other side of the camera versus the speakers in front of the camera, because, you know, the difference being that speakers are storytellers, experts have stories. The reality is what they tap into what they've already shared and all of their intellectual property. They have stuff forever. Really, for them, understanding that connection between word and image and how they play together. Once they figure that out, then it's money in the bank for them. Photographers, that's a whole other can of tomato sauce. Let me tell you, they and I was one of them. And that's, I speak from experience. Yeah, oh yeah, dude, I was the guy who would post a photo, not even forget no story, no caption, no hashtags, no nothing.
Yeah.
Like it was just a photo.
People will
It's like,
find it if they like it.
they're gonna love this and they're gonna hire me because it's that good. And after getting slapped around and having no one contact me for months on end, then you realize, oh, I guess it's not. Maybe I should probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious, if you need photos, are you setting the camera and hitting a timer, or are you hiring a colleague to come take photos of you?
So it's both. Um, I've had my photos taken professionally in my life twice, um, by colleagues. Uh, During the pandemic, I started doing this actually. I got this guy. I have my video monopod, and I got this attachment, and then we put the phone up right to here, and then I was just basically placing it in various parts of my apartment, and I was shooting myself, and then I put the camera on a 3-second timer. So I set up the shot like in the angle. I see how it looks from the side, and as a matter of fact, I did one while I was typing on the computer. So I had my crazy COVID hair, and I had the thing set up over here, and then I hit the 3 seconds. I'm like, okay, and I pretend like I was working, and then I'm like tilting the head and like flattering the angle and doing all that stuff. And,
Pop the hip out.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, hand on hip. Yeah, I do tons of those. I love that photo. Love it. Oh yeah. But that actually brings up a very good point. I know that you had mentioned a colleague before about posing. Posing works for certain things.
Yeah.
But for the stuff that I do with my clients, in fact, yesterday during the headshot session that I had, the woman, first thing out of her mouth was, yeah, so a colleague sent me this list of 20 different poses that would work. And as she was saying, I'm like, yeah, no, we don't do poses here. We don't do poses. What we do is I set you into an environment, be it standing, sitting, leaning on a table, on a couch, whatever it is. And then you do what you do. Don't think about it. Just get into something. And then we refine that pose, because that is going to feel more natural to you, which does what? Helps you break your wall down, helps you feel comfortable, instead of you doing some kind of weird gymnastic parkour kind of ridiculous pose that they think makes them look better. And in fact, makes them get in their head and feel a little stuffy. So I avoid it.
Well, you deal with a lot of speakers. Do you go to the conference? Like you go to the conference, like do you go to like the bars after they speak, like the conference ones where everyone are?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because that's like to me, where I get the most business is the bar after.
Well, the National Speakers Association here in the U.S., they have a yearly conference called Influence.
Yeah.
And I went to the one last year in Colorado, in Aurora, as a matter of fact. And it was a lot of, I didn't bring my gear with me. I just went to talk to people and kind of hang out. And the best conversations I had were the ones at night where I was getting wasted with these people. It's great because, yeah, they just let their hair down.
That's where a lot of business comes from. Like the biggest contract my company's ever had came at a bar, actually the Marriott overlooking Times Square in Manhattan.
Oh yeah? Yeah, I've shot in that one. Yeah.
That's the biggest contract I've ever signed, was in that bar.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense because, we're wired to connect. We're wired as human beings for relationships. And when you put yourself in a position where you're just talking and being yourself, it just opens up the world, especially if you're being yourself and you're not putting on a show. That really is the most important part. And
that's always the part for me of like, when I do this show and then meet someone in person, like to me, I feel like the biggest compliment is you're the same person that I see on the show.
Exactly.
I can't stand that fakeness.
No. And that's why my work is really built on trying to, get the real person out of their shell. I call it persuasive visual storytelling, but it's not being persuasive by putting on a show. You're being persuasive simply by being yourself.
Yeah.
and that's really what speaks, because what that does is it qualifies people in that's totally down with how you present yourself and what you know and how you can help them, and it's going to qualify people out that doesn't necessarily, they don't feel the connection. In both ways, both perfectly good. That's what we want. We want to be able to pare it down, especially when you're trying to niche and create a premium service and be seen as an expert. And you know, like you asked before, if I help speakers and experts with their copy, and I was thinking maybe I should go that road because they have photos and I can do that. And
Yeah.
there was something about it where I was like, yeah, I could do it, but I want to shoot. And then, 2 weeks later, this thing happened, and I was like, all right, yeah, we got to go.
Yeah.
Well, what I ended up doing with the landing page was I approached 3 or 4 of my speaker colleagues and I got feedback on it. And then once I got it, kind of the stamp of approval from some people, I'm like, all right, I'm going out with it. And then that's where it went.
Yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Thank you.
So if people wanted to hire you, get a hold of you, where do they go?
The best place to go would be johndemato.com.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't remember johndemato.com, just
the
remember
link
hashtag
will be here, or here, depending.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, and I would invite you, if you're interested in learning more about branded lifestyle portrait photography or virtual photography or persuasive visual storytelling in general, best place is to just sign up for my blog. I pump out stuff there 3 times a week, and I can give you the URL to have people sign up. And I have a little gift with that too as well that you'll get upon signing up. And social media handles are at the bottom of every page of my website. Jump on in and you can talk to me there.
And I will say, for anyone listening, you're one of the few newsletters basically that I get subscribed to in my inbox. And it's one of the few that
Really?
Yeah. Yours comes in.
Oh, cool. Thanks, man.
First happened, I signed up out of curiosity, and it's been one of the few that I'll actually open and read. So it's well done.
Oh, thanks. I always get excited. I'm like, do people read these things?
Yeah.
No, that's great.
And we keep changing ours too to get those numbers up. But yeah, it's one of the few that I actually like. Yours, I like. And have you heard of Morning Brew?
No. Who's that?
So it's not marketing related. Well, they do have a Marketing Brew edition, but basically it's just they 3 times a week they email you, but I'll send you the link.
Morning Brew.
It's
cool.
Basically just a morning, 3 times a week. They send it out 5:30 a.m. So it's normally there when you get up and you check your email. And it's here's everything you need to know to stay up to date on what's going on in the world.
Oh, I like that.
And it's quick bits, and it's just super informative. And then they have so they have the regular Morning Brew, which is very business and news focused. They have a Marketing Brew, which it's more for big agencies than for a small business like mine.
Yeah.
They have a Retail Brew, which is all about the retail market. And then they have an Emerging Tech Brew, which is all about just the emerging tech sector. But they're super interesting because it's just the perfect thing. Because they basically quick summary, the link, quick summary, the link. So it's the perfect skim in the morning to find the things you're interested in. But that's one of the few that I'll read almost every day.
Check that out.
Yeah.
I like short blurbs. It allows me to not have to go down these crazy rabbit holes that end up depressing me for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, our newsletter that we send out to the real estate community, we actually just added a section at the bottom. I think we called it share worthy. But basically, it's just here's completely unrelated to real estate, just 3 good news stories that'll make you smile.
Nice.
And it's just and for instance, the last one we just did that, we tripled our average click-through rate. And
Really?
Yeah. And they weren't all clicks on that one. We also tested some other things, but we noticed more clicks from there than we've gotten from a lot of other sections we've tested out.
So you're mixing other people's content into your newsletter right in the newsletter.
80% of our newsletter isn't our content.
Wow.
So it's so for real estate, what we'll do, because obviously we serve the real estate community for the most part, the first section is what's in the news, and it's all what's in the real estate news. So the other one, there was a CEO of a big company who publicly criticized the CEO of another government company. And he's a really strange guy. So we put that Phil thinks CMHC CEO is a strange guy, and then it just hyperlinked to the article. That was a big click-through rate. That's the first section. Then now we started doing, which has been the biggest boost to our click-through rate, is finding an agent who's done something we like and shared it. So like the way they marketed how they sold this property, we thought was brilliant. Check it out here. Here's why we liked it.
Yeah.
Agents love that because they can now like go click and see like actual execution of something well done. And sometimes it's our clients, sometimes they're not. We're just like, if we see an agent having done something really well, we share it.
That's cool.
So like for you, it'd be like if you saw a speaker do a really cool piece marketing, be like, and here's a great example of Phil Jones doing X.
Yeah.
It was like other speakers were like, how could I do something? And it just gives them that example. And then we do marketing, a section of marketing help, which is like half our content, half just like, you know, another blog or something that shared good marketing content. And one I like directly ripped off Morning Brew is they do trivia. And then the answers at the end of the newsletter. So it gets you to go to the end. So like this one is, like the one we did in our last one is like in Scotland, there's a tradition that if you pay off your mortgage, you paint your door a certain color. And then we do like A, B, C, or D. It's like red, green, white, or black. Scroll down to the bottom to find out what color it is. And then when they get
I might need to steal that one. I love it.
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning into this week of Over a Pint. Stay tuned for next week when we'll have another guest. I don't even know who it is yet, but I will try to book one before this airs. So at the time you're watching this, we'll already have something filmed probably, but we'll figure that out. So thank you very much, John, for joining us. That was a lot of fun and a lot of great things we talked about.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.